The theme I'd like to share with you today is live your life by the will of God. That comes from 1 Peter chapter 4 verse 2, which says, "So as to live the rest of your earthly life, no longer by human desires, but by the will of God." This verse comes in response to a statement about, since Christ suffered in the flesh, arm yourselves also with the same intention, for whoever has suffered in the flesh has finished with sin, so as to live the rest of your life, no longer by human desires, but by the will of God. One of the things that stands out about the life of Jesus as we read about it in the Gospels is how he is driven. He is laser focused on doing his Father's will from the very beginning. You think about Jesus' testing and temptation in the wilderness, and when the adversary encourages him to turn stones into bread, Jesus' response in part is that we don't live by bread alone, but by every word that comes from the mouth of God. You may recall the story of Jesus having a life-transforming conversation with a woman from Samaria at a well in John chapter 4. And while he has that conversation, the disciples have gone off into town to get food and to get lunch and to come back. And the disciples are shocked to see him talking with a woman, and she immediately goes back to the town. And unlike the disciples, who only came back from a Samaritan village where no one knew Jesus, all they brought back were lox and bagels for lunch, she goes back and she brings back the entire village. But there's a line in chapter 4 where Jesus says to the disciples who are wondering why Jesus doesn't want lunch, and Jesus said, "I have food that you know not of." And then he goes on to say that my food is to do the will of my Father who sent me and to complete his work. And we know, of course, in the Garden of Gethsemane that Jesus prayed, "Not my will, but your will be done." And when we pray the Lord's Prayer, we pray, right, "Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven." And that begins, when we pray that prayer, that means in our life. So one of the things about being a Christian is that it's no longer about, well, this is what I want. This is what I want to do. This is about what I desire. It's much, much more about what is God's will for me in this particular situation, in this conversation, in this decision or choice that I face about the future, or what I do, or where I go, or what I start, or what I stop. I just want to encourage you. Try to release your human desires, your selfish desires, the what I want, and try to make your prayer much more about, God, what is your will for me? What would you have me do so that I can walk in it today and for the rest of my life?